Athena40 Montessori Group panel in Zagreb, part of the Global Conversations which are happening around the world today on International Women's Day. Some of you may wonder what Athena40 is, so we have a very short video to show you that will explain what Athena40 does. Athena40 is an initiative of Global Thinkers Forum. I'm very privileged to sit on their advisory board, and I'm delighted that as the CEO of the Montessori Group, we can collaborate in this way. So perhaps if we could see the video.
Welcome to Athena40. Athena40 is a family of initiatives that promote female leadership and invite all leaders to embrace visionary and innovative thinking. By innovative thinking, we mean being open, curious, and solutions-focused. Athena40 works closely with some of the most dynamic and innovative minds across all industries in order to promote gender diversity, inclusion, and bring more women into decision-making roles. We commit to enabling women to contribute to our economies. We believe that compassion and understanding are necessary values for our societies. We promote partnerships and ideas exchange among women, and of course, we include men in all conversations. We fight cliches and tribalism. We propose collaboration instead of segregation. We ignore labels and stereotypes. We recognize the value of diversity as a fantastic source of talent and knowledge. We stand for freedom of thought and expression. Our language speaks the truth. We stand for values-based decision-making, and we fight polarization. We are broad-minded and inclusive. We believe in meaningful networking and the need to keep lifting each other up. We mentor, inspire, and motivate other women of all ages and backgrounds, helping them discover their own potential. We share and learn from each other's stories. Athena40 welcomes everyone who wishes to be part of our mission and initiatives, an international community of vision, an ongoing global conversation, a movement for compassionate, innovative, future-proof leadership. Join us.
So thank you very much. This is the second time I have done a panel in Zagreb, because I actually live here, even though I work in London. And I am delighted that today I'm joined by a panel of women from all sorts of sectors, from health and women's empowerment, from finance, from the arts, from the civil society here in Croatia, and Vila, who is our change maker of the future. I think it's really important, as both as Athena40 and as the Montessori Group, that we are all working for the women of Vila's generation, and it's important that we hear her voice, so I'm delighted to have her with us as well. We are in Croatia, and although this is a global conversation, I wanted to hear the voices of some of the women in Croatia, and so I'm delighted that Victoria, who is head of EBRD, has prepared some very short presentation for us to see, to hear some of the women here in Croatia speak about the issues that are important to them and the future and leadership. If we could possibly see the video.
Biggest insecurity was not knowing if the decisions I was making in the short term were going to pay off in the long term, and getting very stuck in that mindset that if I made a decision now, I was going to be paying it for the rest of my life. But I think confronting myself with a lot of people who had been in the industry for longer made me realize that that's absolutely not the case. Like, it's not a question of sliding doors that if you pass it, you're never going to have it again.
Ja sam krenula u poduzetničke vode još u razdoblju recesije, tako da cijela situacija nije bila naklonjena marketinškoj industriji. A krenula sam na taj put s jednom torbom punom snova i visokih očekivanja, tako da me zapravo bilo realno strah da li će se sve skupa urušiti kad krenem tim novim putem.
Day one of the war was the day of fear. It was the day of uncertainty. It was the day when everybody's hopes within the country where I was born, where I have my family, where I have my friends, their hopes were collapsing. The end of day two, I've made a decision. I need to do something. I need to make sure that whatever negative feelings that I have, whatever negative feelings that everybody who surrounds me has now, we should not give ourselves in to these fears. We need to act. We need to do something. And this is what I have been doing up until now. And I must admit, the fear, the insecurity has disappeared. At this point in time, it's determination and support that I can give.
When I was starting out with my first serious job, it was during the war in Croatia. So I started working for International Committee of the Red Cross. So I stayed there for 10 years. And yes, I did have fears, but I think the topic was above the fear. And it simply drags you into humanity that every person has.
Krizna vremena u svakom slučaju zahtijevaju poseban tretman. Vidim ulogu osoba koje imaju određeno iskustvo poslovno je da u tom trenutku naravno ne rade paniku, već se fokusiraju na to da budu produktivni i da svojim znanjima i vještinama pomažu.
Pa trenutno kao studentu velika potpora su prvo roditelji, prijatelji, okolina u kojoj se nalazim, sama neka iskustva na određenim poslovima, stjecanje tog nekog radnog odnosa, pozitivna okolina.
Ja sam imala tu sreću da sam krenula u to zajedno sa svojim suprugom. Koliko god je to isto izazovno, ali taj sigurnost imati supruga uza sebe i u principu to što se mi nadopunjujemo, ta jedna onako ženska i muška energija, svako ima neku svoju viđenje nekih stvari ili svako od nas ima interes unutar firme za različitim stvarima, se ispostavilo u stvari kao zgoditak.
Mentorship should give you absolutely feeling that you are not alone in a way, and that others' experience help you to overcome your fears.
Mislim da bi mi pomoglo i da bi me osnažilo nekakva možda zajednica mladih žena koje se susreću sa istim izazovima kao i ja, jer mislim da je lakše kada nekakve probleme s nekime podijeliš, kada shvatiš da to nije, da taj problem ne muči samo tebe.
Pa definitivno mislim da pomaže vidjeti primjere drugih mladih žena baš u tom području koje te zanima i svega što ti se čini zastrašujuće, da se vidi da se to može.
Bitno je iskustvo, naravno, studentskim poslovima, mislim da je to najbitnije i pošto smo mi Hrvatska, imamo znači ljetnu sezonu i prebitna su iskustva, znači ja već 5 godina radim na sezoni, tako da mi je to mislim, već znam kako je raditi i mislim da će mi biti lakše kasnije.
Pa rekla bih samoj sebi da ne bude toliko stroga prema sebi i da su pogreške sastavni dio učenja.
Well, thank you very much, Victoria, for sharing that with us. I found it very inspiring. It's fantastic to hear so many young voices. This is what we're all doing this for. So I'm going to ask you if you care to say a few words about the video and what made you do this and some of your thoughts around some of the themes in the video, if I may.
Thank you, Leonor. So my name is Victoria Zinchuk. I'm a BRD director in Croatia, and as you have, some of you have probably understood, and some of you know, I'm Ukrainian. and I'm wearing two hats while speaking to you today. From the video perspective, the idea behind the video started off probably a month ago, and it just came up as in, why don't we communicate about what matters? And if we were to speak today at this forum, why don't we give voices to those who are being discussed? So the women, whether they say young women, whether they're older women, because in a way, the issues that younger women are facing are the same issues that older and more successful women are facing. So you can be 18-year-old and be full of fear of insecurity. You can be somebody like me who was actually not being afraid when I was much younger, was really afraid all of a sudden 12 days ago when certain things have started happening, as you have seen in the video. The question is really, what do we do about it? And for me, it's very, very interesting and inspirational, to be honest, to be part of what Leonor is bringing to us here in Zagreb and in Croatia, this Global Thinkers Forum and Athena40. I think while I was listening and watching the video and thinking that I can actually connect with everything that this Athena40 is about. I love the message about speaking the truth. I love the idea that we can speak concretely about things that can be done. And I love the fact that we can join forces, because at the end of the day, it's all about collaboration. It's not about men and women, because we need to collaborate between all of us. But if we have an issue, if we have a challenge, we need to join forces. And I can tell you that these days, in times of crisis, I can see how women are stepping up here in Croatia. It's incredible. We'll probably talk a little bit later about some of these ideas, but we can do everything. So we just need to put our minds at it and not be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Am I allowed to touch on some of the things that we're going to be doing? Okay, so Victoria's very modest because I know she's been working 20-hour days since the war started. I know this because I'm getting WhatsApp messages from her at midnight, so I know she's working 20-hour days. The fact that I'm seeing them means I'm also doing that. But she's collecting a group of organisations, both private sector, civil society, players in Croatia, government, who can pull together an initiative that's going to be innovative, is going to be a world first to show that Croatia can lead in the response to the refugee crisis. I'm involved as a Montessori Group because education, I think, is an important part of that. Some of you know, I feel very personally about this because as some of you who know me know that my first interaction with Croatia was actually during the war in Croatia, working with refugee children in a camp here. And sort of seeing the images of the children coming out of Ukraine just reminds me very much of what I experienced nearly 30 years ago when I was here. Unfortunately, I still don't speak Croatian. I can swear in Croatian, but I still can't speak Croatian. But it's really important, as Victoria said, that we all step up, both men and women, to support this, because it is going to be a massive humanitarian crisis. And I think that if we have the ability to do anything, however small, we should do it. We should step up and do it. And those of us that have the ability to do a little bit more, we have a responsibility to step up and do something as well. And that's very much how I feel about it. So I'm sure in the coming days that you will hear more about this. And I hope that we will be able to count on the support of everyone here and your networks and your organizations to help, because the need is going to be huge. It already is huge. It's going to be even more huge. And we have a moral duty as human beings to support particularly the women and children who are the ones that are suffering the most. So I hope that we will be able to count on your support with that. Well, shall I quickly just go through, because I think what's really interesting as well is that we have a mixture of nationalities on this panel. So we've heard from Victoria, who's Ukrainian, and
Jennifer, do you want to tell us where you're from?
So I'm from Montreal, Canada,
And I came to Croatia in March of 2020, so right in the midst of the pandemic, 3 days before the earthquake. I was living in India because I had spent 20 years of my career working in international development. So it's great to be here. I've gotten to know some of the ladies on the panel, and it's really been a privilege because I think when I came here, I lived a very isolated life because of Corona, and it's so refreshing to be able to get out and start to engage and meet other women. So thank you.
Okay. My name is Kristina Grbavac. I'm coming from Croatia and was my whole life living actually in Croatia. But I had privilege as associate partner with KPMG dealing with private taxation, actually to meet individuals coming from various countries. And this is some kind of international environment that I'm really enjoying to work.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Ivana Gažić, Zagreb Stock Exchange CEO for 12 years. I'm very proud that we as Stock Exchange are communicating not only corporate governance and goals connected with the corporate world, but we are also trying to use our position as the socially important institution, economically important institution to promote things like children's rights and participate in women's rights and so on. For instance, this morning we had launched for the, I think, 7th time in a row, Ring the Bell for Gender Equality video, which is done by 100 exchanges all over the world. So we are definitely marking this day and trying to have more women in the boards of the companies listed on the stock exchange.
I've been in Croatia for 3.5 years now. Ivana represents our client as well, so we are all connected one way or another, I think, but there are people who I don't know on this panel as well. I have really loved these 3.5 years that I've stayed here, and it was interesting because the first weeks of the earthquake, my London colleagues, because I was based in London for 20 years with EBRD, and even prior to being engaged by EBRD, my London colleagues were telling me, Victoria, you can go, you can evacuate now. If you don't leave now, we don't know whether we will be able to take you out of the country with all of these earthquakes. And I said, no, I'm staying. My team is here, I'm staying. So I'm staying here. Unfortunately, I will have to leave at some point. I'm really not looking forward to this. But while I'm here, I'm trying to do the best out of it for me and for everybody else. Thank you.
Vila?
Hello everyone, so I'm Vila Bušić and I'm from Croatia. I am currently a high school student in first gymnasium here, and I always live in Croatia. I've been born here, and today I am a part of these panelists to give in my voice and my vision into future leaderships and to maybe give some of my generation's inspiration to go follow their dreams and be successful in their careers and follow their path.
Hi, I'm Marina, also known as Oko. I'm a Croatian artist, and what I usually do is try to change stuff around me that I see and don't like. By example, I don't care if you're a guy or a girl. If you're not a bad one, we can play. So yeah, that's it.
Hi, I'm Regina Castillo, and I'm the representative of UNICEF in Croatia, the United Nations Children's Fund. I was born in Nicaragua, born and raised in Nicaragua. I went through a civil war, and that defined me forever. As you know, my house was bombed, my town was bombed. I had to flee, so I decided to be a helper. From that day on, I became an adult at the age of 10. And so I can relate to children suffering in tremendous ways. I have been with the United Nations for the past 20 years. And in Croatia, I came almost nearly 3 years ago. And I have to say it is a pleasure to work for the children of Croatia and the world. I have never met more people with more solidarity, than the Croatian population, probably because they have gone through hard times as well. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to be in this panel with women I admire. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Karla Pudar. I'm here from Croatia, but not from Zagreb. I'm actually from eastern part of Croatia, to be more precise. So yes, we are actually from all over the Europe, but also all over Croatia. I work in the SOLIDARNA Foundation. It's a young foundation for human rights and solidarity. We did quite some work in Sisak-Moslavina County past year due to the earthquake and due to the help of some of the ladies here present. And I agree with what Victoria said in her video. We all want to do something when we see some injustice happening. But unfortunately, my generation, I think Vila's generation as well, most of our energy kind of direct towards social media, which is really wrong. So I'm really looking forward to seeing real actions directing our energies towards right points. In this case, towards the Ukrainian immigrants. I myself was an immigrant 30 years ago. I didn't have luck back then to have Leonor to welcome me in other part of Croatia. But yeah, the wounds here in Croatia are quite fresh from the war. So hopefully the wounds from Ukrainian people won't be like that. And this whole chaos will quit soon, hopefully. Thank you.
I am CEO of the Montessori Group. The Montessori Group, many people think of it as nurseries and they think of it as something that's elite. It's not the case. Maria Montessori's first school was in the slums of Rome, and her purpose right from day one was about giving opportunities to young children from the most disadvantaged backgrounds to fulfill their potential as human beings. And that really is what the Montessori education is about. It's not about exams, it's not about grades, it's not about what we would call financial success. It's about helping every child fulfill their potential and become the very best, most successful human being they can be. And for me, I know we're going to talk about leadership, and I don't get to speak because I'm the moderator, so I will say my bit now. For me, leadership is about, and success is about what you define it to be. What success is what do you define success to be? It is not about your job title, it's not about your status, it's not about how much money you have, it's not about how many goods you can buy with what you have. For some people that's important and that's fine, but it doesn't really define what success is. And it just doesn't define what being a leader is and being a CEO is. You know, for me, leadership and success is about exactly that. Being an authentic person, doing the very best they can do for others. And living a life that is fulfilling because you are actually engaging with other people. We talk in Montessori very much about responsibility towards ourselves, responsibility towards others, responsibility towards our communities. And that's really, really important. And I think we're seeing this particularly now. That is what success really is. So it doesn't matter whether you are someone who is a homemaker, whether you're a CEO like me, whether you're an artist, whether you are, in finance, whatever. If you are not your true, authentic self and are actually striving always to be the very best person you can be, then for me that is success in a way. So I hope that we will inspire everyone here today with our conversation, and you will enjoy the debate that we're going to have. And it's wonderful that we're part of this amazing global conversation of women across the world, women like you across the world who are having the same conversation in their own countries and in their own cultures.
When I got your questions, actually, the preparation for the panel today, and that was the first question for all of us, and I was thinking, and I must say it was the hardest question for me because I had to do the introspection, which I hate to do. If I had to pick, I can't pick one thing that defined me. It would probably be a combination of private things and professional things, and one followed by another. I must say, from the private part, being probably the fact by being raised in the late 80s, beginning of the 90s by the single mom in the post-war Croatia, probably had to do a lot of things with who I am today. for her being a figure to show us that you can have both family and a career in those times got me thinking, if she managed back then today, I mean, there probably is not a thing I can't do. And I think it's a value that today I try to pass to my kids. And so you can hear my 4-year-old singing to her brother, everything you can do, I can do better. So basically, yes, I think that the power which is inside of everybody, but talking in the context of females, this huge empathy that we have that can be potentialized by some personal events can be a really good tool in the professional context. And on the professional level, I must say, after 15 years of working in the cultural sector, switching to SOLIDARNA, to the NGO sector, with a really big program, with lots of programs in the field of human rights and activism, had a lot to do with who I am today. 1 year after working on the earthquake relief, it does not make you, leave you the same. Also, every day being in contact with women who are victims of domestic violence or with children who want to study but don't have financial needs for that. It kind of gives you, I mean, in one way it's draining, but on the other hand, when you have possibility to help them, even in a smaller way, just to make first step towards something, some change, it's really rewarding. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Same question. I was born in Nicaragua, northern part of Nicaragua, from a Spanish mother from Spain and a Nicaraguan father. And before we started the panel, I said that there was a civil war when I was 10 years old in northern Nicaragua. And my city was bombed, my home was bombed, and we had to flee. And I think war affects children in really exponential ways, right? But they also, unfortunate events give you also a sense of confidence, right? On who you are and what's your purpose. And I decided very early on that my purpose was going to be the purpose of a helper. Somebody who, changes other people's lives, because by changing other people's lives, I also change mine, and I also reassert mine. So I joined the United Nations 20 years ago in New York at Kofi Annan's office, the former Secretary General Kofi Annan, and I got to see conflict even, more worldwide, not only my own national conflict. And from that experience, I was able to see how much people need reassurance and how much people need solidarity around the world. So I think what defined me was that experience in my home country. And then also I have to say that the women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, my sisters, my friends, have all played a key role in my life. And also my father, who believed in me, who was always saying, but you can do better, but you can do even, you can go even higher. And every time I wanted to say, I want to be a nurse, he said, no, a doctor. I wanted to design something, he said, no, an architect. So he was always seeing me like higher. And I think how important it is to have good men in your life that, provides reassurance and that build you up. So that's why I think, every single girl should have good parents and also the support that she needs from other women and other men. So I believe that communities raise children, and that has defined me in my life. Thank you.
Hi. I was 10 also when Croatian war was happening. So what I realized sitting next to you is like, we obviously, anybody who go to anything like that, or probably anything very traumatic, get marked for life So things that are happening now is like really like amplify everything up again. So what I wanted to say is, when I was 10, so you need to run in the shelter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But for me, what was very interesting was switch from one country, because I was in pioneers swearing my tutito and stuff like that in Yugoslavia, and then you switch to Croatia. And then I always wanted to go to London, because you're a kid and you want to go to London, and then you can't because you need all the visas and million stuffs because you're in a country in transition some way. So you get frustrated because you're a kid, so you don't care about the politics. I just want to go to London and stuff like that. So it was very weird to see all those things happening, and then us going to EU, and then you don't have permission to work, and then you have, and a million things happening. I mean, when I do art, I live for art. It's not my work, that's just my life. And sometimes when you think about war or any big traumatic things that happening, art seems so trivial, but it's not. What I realized, like, I wasn't aware of it because I came from working family, so like regular working family, not high, like, but I have a very, very strong mom, like super stubborn, and she raised me obviously like that. So I want to do art, and that's it. So I was doing it. Of course, there's a million problems and steps in the way. First they think, oh, you're a girl, you're gonna paint, I don't know, bunnies and like horses and run on the fields, and like, no. Then I started, I was a lot in, I have an older brother, so of course I was into like a lot of, let's call it boy sports, because I wanted to go taekwondo, and then, no, you're a girl, you need to dance, like, but my brother doing taekwondo and stuff like that. And those things define you in a way, in combination with stubbornness, that I really pushed myself to do all of it. That's what I say, to like lead by example, because I realized like just everything what I do have a very big impact. I wasn't aware of it before, so I was just fighting for myself on a way to make people understand you. Sometimes, most of the time they didn't, until you actually prove them wrong. But what I do now, because sometimes I do lecturing and stuff, I always go in the beginning, like, don't worry, I'm not like full of self-esteem or like I can kill, like, it's like, no, I was completely confused, doubt is constant even today, but just like annoying friend almost. I think it's in every possible job, not only mine, and in life, in personal life, it's just like blabbing constantly, like doubts. So I said, like, it's annoying friend that you just like, shut up, you're with me forever, but just like, shut up and prove it wrong with action. So what I realized, let's say, what defined me was, I was quite young, and I remember my mom was working like special care facility for kids, and I was there, and my mom had only like high school finished degree, and then she like went to like educate a little bit more. And then one of the professor, and ironically and sadly, it was a female, and she told her like, my mom loved Dostoevsky and like Russian literature, whatever. And she was like, what do you know about literature? And I was standing there, I was a kid, and I was looking at that like, what? I'm gonna punch you, that's my mom, because you're a kid. And then my mom, of course, because she's not weak, I'm like, what do you know about literature? Shut up. And I remember that day, because that's the day when I decided I want to have a master's degree in art. I actually was joking, like, I want to have a PhD in art. Not because I want to be like posh and fancy, just like people can't approach you with stupidity, let's call it. When I say stupidity, I mean, it doesn't matter what your like letters before your name says, it's your attitude. And I succeeded. I'm going to and like museums and galleries and European Bank and whatever job it is. You just, what I'm always saying is like, just be yourself always, but don't let anybody like play with you, because the stubbornness coming out. So I hope that by leading as an example, because a lot of people sending me million messages on social media and stuff, and like, that's what I said, like, it's not only girls, there's like guys and girls, who cares? Just don't let anybody mistreat you weirdly. And the other ones like have a million imaginary projects that doesn't have any logic, but you believe that you can make them, and then you will, because you always meet like powerful people in the way that you didn't even plan. So yeah, that's life.
Brilliant.
So this is a new killer.
Well, I'm 16, so I don't really know who I am yet. Let's be honest, when
That's
16
good.
does know who they are. But I have a pretty good idea who I want to be and who I'm sure I will become. These women around me here are great idols and great inspiration to become that. So I think that is one of the reasons why Leonor chose me to be here today. I am young and I know what I want in life for now. And I am really determined to go there and become what I want to be. So, yeah.
So I would just say you can hear that we are defined by our childhood and by our parents. And some of us happen to have strong mothers, some of us happen to have strong fathers. It's always great for a girl to have a loving father, which I have, even though I have discovered my father only in my mid-20s, and he is really my soulmate as it stands. What defined me is definitely my childhood, but in that sense I was a survivor, I would say. So I have an incredibly kind mother, but who is also very reserved, who doesn't show the emotions. And I think that showing emotions is extremely important, because if you show the emotions, you show so much more. And you can act upon it so much better. So I had a grandmother in a tiny little village in Ukraine who was stepping up. And I think she probably defined myself at that point in time when I was tiny. She adored me, and this was enough. And I knew that I was out there, that I could do whatever I want. And this is what I did. When I was 16, I wanted to be a banker or an actress. And I've decided that I would be actually not a very good actress, because I played in a school theatre by then and I could do only dramatic roles. I couldn't be a medium or anything like this. And in those days, the local theatres, which had actually very good quality production, but it was a provincial town for Ukraine, kids were taken to watch those plays because people were not coming. And I was thinking, I would hate to have a job whereby after all of this studying, etc., others will have to be forced to come and watch me on the stage. So I was thinking, no, I don't have the talent that somebody who is a star, who could be a star, needs to have. I should pursue my other passion, which, sorry, it was money. I had no idea what money was about, but my mother was telling me that when I was a kid, like probably 10 years old, I found some old accountancy books. And I was filling them up with numbers, doing them. And when the girls were calling me, like, come and play with us, I was telling them, please just tell them that I'm busy, I'm working. So I think this is what I keep doing. What I have realized over time, and I think, Karla, you said that we all have empathy. I don't agree with this. And I know that many people have empathy, but many don't. And I have met many people along my way. In Croatia, right now it's incredible to actually see this part of the society. But I don't think that everybody has this empathy. I don't think that we are all equal in this sense. But I have realized somehow over time that there is a reason why I came to EBRD. And the slogan that somebody at EBRD invented just 10 years ago, which says, we invest in changing lives. This is something that has been really something that has defined me over time. I have no idea where it came from, this change in life desire, but this is who I am. And whatever I do, I get the strength while I see that I'm helping others to become better.
As everybody was talking about their parents, it started to look a little bit like, you know, first meeting with your psychiatrist. Yes. What happened with your parents? You know? So I will not speak about my parents. I will tell you what happened to me as I was coming here. So this morning I was at another panel in Croatian Association of Employers, and I came with a cab, and the taxi driver was very angry because he changed the show on the radio. He said, what is this about Women's Day whole day? You know, what's the problem? I don't understand. I don't see any problem. You know, I had a very powerful mother and my sisters are very rich. I don't see anybody beating women. What do they want, you know? And I thought, you know, boy, you know, you took really wrong person to talk about this. So, but the drive was not very long. I just wanted to show you that the problem is still there. You know, we are here in a friendly environment and we know why we are here. But I'm more and more involved into this matter because I work for a bit over 20 years and nothing changes. I'm still walking in the boardrooms with 99% of men or 90% of men. I still see boys' clubs around the city. We had arrests in the boys' club 1 or 2 years ago with the prominent company. Even the president of the state was there. So, I mean, we see it all around us. And this is why I don't want to say what made me as a child, because obviously I have the roots in that respect as well. I want to say that, ladies, our job is not done. And we need to act in our power wherever we are, in our jobs, in our families, with our kids. And we need to create better society. We are very lucky because if we were born 50 years ago, we would be, or I am born almost 50 years ago. I wanted to say 50 years earlier, we would be in totally different position. So I think we have really a great time in history to make a change. And this is why I'm here today. So.
Okay, I think that each one of us is somehow built to this person by some personal things which happened to us, but also with our professional life and all that we have learned and how we grown up, you know, during this professional part of our lives as well. So when I joined, and that was in 2000, just 22 years ago, to KPMG, it was really not my expectation that I will be today still with KPMG, and especially that I will be dealing with taxes. You know, it's something one would not expect that someone would find taxes to be interesting. And people would usually say that taxes are something that you just have to do, you know. If there is anything you have to do in life is to die and to pay tax. So this is something that you would most likely hear. However, there are also some of us who would say that there is the tax is like sex, so it doesn't have to be that bad. And obviously it kept me with KPMG for so many years. And what I just wanted to share with you is that when I joined, I was a graduate trainee, and this was the time when I was finding myself. And in these years, I actually I'm fellow of the UK Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. I was more on this business part. And then 2009 came. It was days actually of worldwide crisis. We were all actually trying to find some money for all of us to survive, actually to find job. And in these days, one of my colleagues who was running private taxation department, she left, she moved to Switzerland, and I was asked actually to take over that department. And this was the department which nobody wanted to deal with, this private taxation. I don't know why, but at that time, it was like, I felt like a punishment. And it took me some time to actually realize that this is an opportunity for me. And I actually realized that when I started firstly doing that job. And then my eyes actually opened when I saw that only in that part of my work, I'm dealing with so many interesting people. And you have such an opportunity, to see their lives. And it's not, only, business tax, this and that. It was really their stories, how they actually came to that, where they are today, and it was so interesting. And then I realized that I was chosen with purpose to do that. And obviously I managed to share how I feel about, this part of taxation to others. And we finally started having others within the department, who are willing to do this private taxation. And today we are the largest private taxation practice in Croatia. So I guess it was done correctly.
Thank you. Wow, I have to go at the end of all of this. I love that you had a period of time where you were finding yourself, because I personally, I think my whole life has been about finding myself. And probably one of the most formative experiences for me is when I was 8 years old, my parents took me away with them to Central America, and I saw poverty firsthand for the first time. And I left there, and that was all I ever wanted to do. I always wanted to work with the disempowered. I always wanted to work with the poor. And I always wanted to live a big life. I never realized it in those terms, but I did. But that also meant that I put myself on the edge a lot. And when you put yourself on the edge, as one of my friends said to me, then a lot of bad things can happen. And I've had a series of things in my life that have probably shaped me, not always for the good, but I've almost died in Nigeria of cerebral malaria. I survived a very, very brutal attack. I've had a lot of things happen to me. But I think that one of the most formative, my mother was the most special person in my life. I used to think that I wouldn't be able to survive if she wasn't there, because she was this passionate, adventurous spirit who grew up in the wrong generation in many ways. I always thought of her as one of those women that would be out in Africa in the 1800s, you know, and she would really, I think, thrive today. But she grew up in a generation where she was shut down, and so she lived vicariously through me. And every time I spoke to her, it was, how is my beautiful, amazing daughter? What amazing things are you going to do? And she was always pushing me to do more and to live more. And she died of a very, very aggressive cancer in a way that was so hard to watch, because her light was just draining out of her in a very short period of time. And at the same time, I was 41, I had 3 kids, and I started going through menopause. And I didn't know what it was. So while she was in palliative, I started sweating. Not every so often. I'm talking like every 15, 20 minutes. I was pouring with sweat. And that led to other symptoms. And what it felt like at that point was this sensation that my body was done, that my sexual and reproductive years were over. And so my body didn't need me anymore. And that went on for a long time, and it wasn't until 2019 when I realized that it was now or never for me. It's either step out of, I was working at the World Bank at the time, I'd been there for 11 years. It's an amazing institution that kept pulling me back in with exciting projects every time I thought I would want to leave. But ultimately, I never got to see what I was capable of. I really wanted to know what would happen when I stepped out on my own without anybody above me anymore to tell me what to do. And so in 2019, I left my career in international development. I finally certified as a yoga instructor after doing 30 years of yoga, more for my own physical body and mental health. And I became a coach, and I'm still in the, I would say, somewhat early stages. But probably what I set out to do is to discover myself. Because when I left work, the big lesson for me, before I left, I gathered all these materials and I got all my emails and all these. And I didn't realize that I would have an identity out of it. I thought that my identity was my job because it was a powerful job. I've had powerful jobs. I've been around powerful people. And I thought that my power came from what I did. And what I've learned now that I turned 50 recently is that my power is going to come from myself. My power is going to come from the women around this room, because as we mentor each other, as we listen to each other, as we form these communities, we really start to understand ourselves in a way that certainly I didn't when I thought I was powerful 20, 30 years ago. So I think that there's a lot left to learn and a lot left to accomplish, and I am so excited for the next second half of my life.
Well, thank you very much. As I'm sure you'll all agree that I have a very inspirational group of women around me, so I feel a bit humbled here. So I'm going to press on and ask some questions. So the first question is to Ivana and Victoria. you know, we know that women are stepping up, and that's great, but you've mentioned we've still got a long way to go, and you know, we look at some of the statistics about women being discriminated when they have children, often sort of losing their way in the career progression, and I think we've got a statistic here that 3 out of 4 working mothers still report discrimination in the workplace. So can I just ask you both, just to sort of, you know, have you experienced that? What are your thoughts? What have you sort of felt you could do, or did you feel you couldn't do anything about that? Perhaps, Ivana, if you could speak first.
Well, I have a son who is almost 13, and he's also autistic. When I gave birth to him, I thought that I will go back to work in less than 6 months because I was very ambitious, and I was a managing director in one of the banks. And when I look at him when he was 5 months old, I realized that he's just too small, that I leave him yet at home. So I stayed at the end 9 months. I didn't care much about what my company thinks about that, but I'm one of the 40 women that asked for 2 hours break for breastfeeding as a manager in the bank, and I didn't care what people are saying. But I'm all the time very, very aware that big part of women do not have that opportunity. And I also see a huge difference in treatment of women in public sector and in private sector. So women are choosing public sector work because they are going to be treated better once they have children and so on. And this is one of the reasons why they are less paid. Because they are working simply in jobs where they cannot progress a lot. I get angrier and angrier every year when I see that children do not have sufficient care. There are not sufficient kindergartens. Schools the hours of the school are ridiculous. The care for children with any sort of disability is very, very difficult to get. And what I get back from society is that I should, all the time I get the message from his very early age that I should stop working, stay at home, and be with my child. And it didn't change. I still sometimes feel a bit judged that I'm working full-time job and the job I'm working with a child like that. But I really feel sorry for a number of women who are staying at home because they are forced by society to stay for any reason at home and not go to work.
Thank you, Victoria. I would also say that regardless how much we would have loved to say that it's not the case, but discrimination exists. And not only in some of the countries that have joined us and have been quite vocal that, you know, women's situation in some countries is really dangerous. And we have to say that very honestly that this is the truth. The question is, what can we do about it? How can we change it? Can we change it locally and globally? As far as my experience is concerned, I came from Ukraine to England and I had my first daughter there. And while coming from Ukraine, actually I was pretty confident, very outspoken. I didn't hesitate to give my opinion, which I understood was not very welcome in the English society.
Glad to see you have changed.
So what I would understand that the interesting was actually not interesting at all. And me speaking up was probably not the right thing to do for somebody who was 23, 24 and whose opinion was not really asked for. And I had so I was totally not prepared to experience this effectively discrimination situation that I faced when I was, I don't remember, 4 or 5 months pregnant. Because I was kind of headhunted by another department within this very British company in the credit insurance industry. And so I didn't really want to move across to another department, and I wanted to get promoted in my current department. And I said, okay, I have an offer, and I was thinking, okay, if I'm being transparent about this, obviously they will want to keep me because I was apparently at that point in time very good, professionally speaking. And my boss said, well, you can apply. So I applied, and then I was thinking, wow, but I'm pregnant now, so I need to go and tell them, just in case. Well, when I said this, just in case, the answer was, oh, but you will be gone for 6 months. By the time you will come back, somebody else probably will be even better than you. So you decided to apply. Okay. So actually, I didn't get the promotion, but I've decided that this was not the place where I wanted to be. So the decision was very clear. The moment I understood that it was not about me, it was not about who was the best, men, women, it doesn't matter, but it was just purely the case of discrimination. I was thinking this is not the place where I want to be. It was very hard for me to get another job. I got another job, and the reason, to be honest, why I have stayed at EBRD, in addition to the fact that this is really the organization that makes me to connect with everything I believe for, I don't feel this within the bank where I operate. But I know that this is not the case, and frankly, I really think that the only way this can be changed is if more women step up, because we need to change. We're lucky when men become compassionate, when men care, and they should. And it's also our responsibilities as mothers. I have 2 girls, so it's easy for me to say. But I think that mothers raising their boys need to make sure that these boys, when they grow up, they actually look after people who are like their mothers. So from that perspective, I think we are facing many, many years of very similar situations that there are still, unfortunately, in many of the countries. But we can do something about it, and we should not just let it go.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you. And in the similar vein, I'm going to ask Oko and Kristina and Ivana to talk about bias, which is a sort of similar sort of ally to the discrimination around what are the, we know that women can be good leaders, we know that they're effective, but there are sort of, often fighting against bias. So what are some of the biases that you've experienced, and perhaps tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, I will say I have many amazing colleagues, all male, helping me whatever I need. It's fine. Group, how do I say it? Like, they used to call me when I was like, oh, you're one of the guys or whatever, but it's cool. And then I will use one example that will say basically everything what I think in general. So sometimes I do galleries, museum, blah, 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 but sometimes I do paint buildings because I love to paint big. I don't know why, just, make my life harder, probably. So I think I went to one of the smaller Croatian cities. I mean, I travel around Europe everywhere to paint, but they invited me and they never had anything big before. So I was like, of course I'm going to do it. Yeah, let's do that. And because I know it's a lot of people gather and they look at you and it's interesting for them because it's a new thing. So I get to the city. Everywhere I go, I don't have a driver license, but I do drive my own machines. The big machines that like pick you up on top of the building. I drive that. I don't have a driving license. It's just like, let's go. And then every type of machine, no problem. I'm terrified of heights. That's a plus, but I want to paint, so ignore that. So I was in the small city and it's all good. And then I came there and they have a guy, he's like 50-year-old, like very nice guy, like very polite, everything was nice. But because they're so unused to see a girl doing the machine, they look at me like, okay, I'm going to drive that. And I was looking at him like, but I'm driving all of my machines. I was on like 7th floor, it's fine. And this is, depend what country you're from, but probably a lot of things are similar. I'm born in Zagreb and I'm Croatian. So for me, I would almost say that I'm used to it in like general level. That's for me, it's almost like, that's how it is. And you just juggle between that. So I'm used to that people not only that they think that you're not capable of doing something, that they put you in some little boxes, that they think you should be there because that's how we used to do stuff. Yeah, but we're going forward. So what happened? We get on the machine, people gathered around, it was quite night already, and everybody's looking, and we get up, and he was like, is it enough? Like, no, go up. I want to be on top of the roof almost, because I want to paint a massive painting. And my assumption is that he became nervous, because he's like, I'm used to it, people look at me or whatever happening, and that's not even the highest that I've been. So for me, it's like, yeah, go. And the machine stuck. And it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye. That's what they say. But so guys start panic breathing. And it's funny because in my head, the instinct, the gut feeling from the start was like, why am I letting this guy drive the machine? Like, I'm doing those stuff. And just because I'm so used to, sometimes it's easier to like let things go, like pass. Like, oh, whatever, like just let them be. And because you don't always want to fight or like even talk. So just like, yeah, whatever. And then he started pressing all the buttons. And I'm younger. This is not, my professional job is not to drive machines. So I was just looking at him like, can you calm down? Like calming him down. Like, calm down, press 1, you need to shut it off. Like telling the guy whose professional job is to do those things. And he was just pressing stuff and the machine slapped on the building and then turned around. He fell down, he survived because it was super high, but he broke everything possible in his body. And I almost fell down because the machine was upside down. And I was hanging on my head with the brushes in my hand. And you hear people screaming, you don't know if he's dead or not. And for me, I mean, heartbeat machine is on, so it's like, everything's happening. And you just wait for fire department to come and pick you up down, but even they didn't have a machine, so the ladder wasn't big enough, so like they were improvising how to get me from on top. And you just hanging there almost like, and the only thing that was in my head is like, okay, I'm gonna marry my boyfriend and I'm gonna do a massive show. There's no time for anything now, like small, probably that thing, I don't know. But what I got from, I mean, my back was hurt from like all that tension and stuff, and I couldn't sleep or walk for like a while, and you have flashes of him falling because I saw him falling. So all of those bad things combined, what it brought positive, first, when I didn't want to sit, so just like walk, and then wherever I went, like Croatian National Theatre, I was just lying on the floor, and people probably thought that I'm like homeless or something. So I just can't sit because my back are like, nah. So little by little, I started telling all of my male friends, like, you need to buckle up when you're going up on a machine, because nobody was doing it. It was like, oh, it's not cool in a graffiti or whatever. So they started doing it. And the funny thing, I mean, it's not even funny. I realized at that moment, that's why I'm saying this thing, like, why am I doing stuff that by gut feeling I know it's wrong? First, I know that that's what I do, so I don't need to step back because somebody gonna feel inferior or like whatever reason they're gonna feel threatened by me doing those stuff, because that's how they raise you. Just trust your gut and don't let anything that is supposed to be in some separate box or expected from you or how you're supposed to behave or like whatever. I mean, respect the people that you're talking with.
Traumatic experience, and I must admit that from my experience, what usually I see female colleagues to have problem is actually to combine somehow maternity with their professional life, and that's usually the hardest part. And here we can see now that there is expectation that the working mother is working less than other colleagues, meaning female colleagues, without kids, or even male colleagues who even have kids at home. So expectation is if you have two colleagues, and one of them is male, that even though he has family, maybe family of 4 at home, this will not affect his work. Well, this is not a similar expectation for us, who are female. What I have evidence in my career is that female colleagues who are mothers at the same time were better organized than before becoming mothers. If they were just forced, life actually makes it for you. You just have to do it, otherwise you won't function at all. They were very, very much focused on what they do. And most of them sacrifice themselves actually by working hard during the day, then working at home, being with their kids, and then again doing second shift during night hours. So this is all done by most of us who are also willing to have career. So if you want to have it, but you also feel, and I think that this is now we're coming to maybe the other part, which is a mixture of your work, professional life, but besides that, if you want to be, a successful businesswoman, then you also have other parts of life which are expected. At least I think from my side, I was doing actually most of these expectations for me is also to be a good mother, to be a good wife. So in order to combine all of that, you're actually sacrificing your private time and actually. This is maybe not something that so much is society putting on us, but it's also something that I think that we as women put on ourselves.
We see a lot of stereotypes that are happening. What can we do? How do stereotypes change things? What can we do? How do we represent women differently?
Well, I think our ancestors and a lot of elderly population put a lot of stereotypes when it comes to genderizing, like jobs. And we all know that at one part of our history, women's place was in a kitchen. Well, it was considered there. And I think we have come a long way since that time. And in the matter of taking like high position jobs and being leaders ourselves, there's a lot of new entrepreneurs and inventors coming, the number is going up. But there's still difference between men and women. I myself have not been put in a position where I was mistreated because I was a woman, but I have been looked down at by a male. And I think that is because in today's social media, today's journalists, artists, TV, everyone literally puts the men population above us because they are considered a stronger gender. And we could normalize that and put us like on the same line by looking into and presenting more female leaders and more women achievements today.
Is it enough?
Yep. Volko, do you want to say a couple of words about art and gender stereotypes? Because I think what you do is really interesting.
But in general, I think by example.
Brilliant. We know that women can heal broken societies, and we've talked a lot earlier on about how many of us have experienced those broken societies. So perhaps what can women do?
So I don't think we can talk about broken societies without talking about broken women. And when women have been beaten down, disenfranchised, and the new word that I use now is depleted. I feel often that women really have given so much that they become depleted. And so I think we lose that counterbalance. We lose what women bring to the table. And I was thinking last night about Ukraine and the fact that the vast majority of refugees that are leaving are women and children. And I was imagining a Ukraine devoid of women. And I was imagining a society devoid of women and what that would look like. And the fact is, that looks like a lot of our halls of power. It looks like a lot of our boardrooms. So I think, I guess it's also the perspective now after I spent 20 years working across more than 20 countries with the poorest of the poor up to the leaders of countries. And we all suffer very similar issues. And I think the fundamental one, and where I see activism starting with ourselves, and there is activism in the act of self-care. And self-care requires community, because it's easy to talk about power, but power requires courage, and courage doesn't come when you are isolated. We need to encourage each other to hold that power. And so that's where That's where I really think community comes in. And then other women have also touched on this, which is the influence factor. We may not be sitting in the positions of power, but we certainly have a very strong, subtle influence that we play, especially through our nurturing of the next generation, through the messages that we give to the future leaders and our daughters.
Thank you. I think, when we think about society, societies are defined by the way we treat women and girls, in my view. And I think that when it's really important for women to be supportive of other women and girls. If you have the opportunity as a manager to hire a pregnant woman, hire her. If you have the opportunity to, improve working schedules, do that. As managers, I think we have a responsibility to ensure that we have family-friendly policies which do not only help women, they also help children, and they actually help men as well. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do. We can empower women and girls by entrepreneurship, by skills building, by digitalization, by promoting self-esteem and confidence. Also, we can empower women and girls by breaking stereotypes. And it is not that stereotypes are untrue. Stereotypes can be true. The only problem with stereotypes is that they're not complete. As Chimamanda Nietzsche, the Nigerian writer, writes, stereotypes are incomplete. They don't tell us the whole story. And women and girls can be great engineers, great scientists too. And they're also breadwinners too. And they're also good cooks too. So all the things too. So I think it's really important to break those stereotypes and support women at the workplace, outside the workplace, everywhere. And also when you see only men in a picture, ask yourself, what's wrong with this picture? Why is, half of humanity is not represented there?
Basically, I agree with everything that Jennifer and Regina said. I mean, I signed both. Empowerment, definitely. But I would just add one little sentence. I think we need to start, from the early age. We spoke about the importance of the education. We need to teach kids that. I think that empathy can be taught. And I think that the better tomorrow can be taught if we start from the early age, if we start with our own example. For example, in SOLIDARNA Foundation, we are all women, we have one man. Very often, that man is being invited on the panels and so on. When he sees that there are only men at the table, he rejects and he tells them, I will take part, but where are the women? Invite some women and then I will take part. Or there will be women in the name of SOLIDARNA. So yes, we have to show by our own example.
Okay, I'm going to give the last word to actually our youngest member, because I want to ask Vila to tell us, what do you think are the challenges for the future leaders, women like you of the future? What are the challenges you face, and how can we help as more senior women?
Well, but the example is like the most important part. My mother herself is an entrepreneur, and she is really successful at what she does. So all these women, they're all successful and they are our idols, and we all look up to them and hope that one day we will be successful as them. Also, as I said, in social medias, there are a lot of, because unfortunately my generation is all over social media, no one really reads anymore. So by setting an example and putting the woman out there to show what they are capable of and their achievements, we are more and more inspired by that, and we have more and more drive to be them one day. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. As you can see, we could talk for hours on this, and it's a fantastic panel, which is brilliant. I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but we'll have plenty of chance afterwards to speak together. I'd like to thank my panel. If you could all just thank my panel with a round of applause, that'd be great. And I think we're now ready to join the other panels around the world. We have a little surprise for you, and I think that I'm learning more about Croatia, and one of the things and about Croatians, and one of the things I'm told is that Croatians love to sing. So we're going to have a song now by Teresa. So please, Teresa, if you could come up, please welcome her.
I'm very happy to be with you today at this event. And what I will do today, yes, I will sing for you. One famous song of our famous author, who is also the ambassador of UNICEF, Zlatan Stipišić. That is one song which is called Ti nisi više moja bol, which is translated in English is You're not my pain anymore. What I want to tell you actually when I prepared this song is that you all know that music and songs and our voice is really powerful tool for relaxation and for stress relief. So you can use your own voice.
You can all stand up. Come on, we can all stand up. You know, let's all stand up. Yeah.
Što mirujem na ruci i ne vjetru da me spasi. Nema potrebe za to i neka konac bijelo krasi. Nisi više moja bol. Ja znam da moja ljubav ima 100 života prije nego takne dno. Puštam je da ode, da se vrati bolja, više ne postoji bol. Lažna nada nikad se ne umori, sama se spasi. Umori se onaj koji nosi je i ona koju glasi. Sad hajmo pomoć tišini da nas predvodi u kal. Više što na morem visi. Nisi više moja bol. Ja znam da ova ljubav ima 100 života prije nego takne dno. Puštam je da ode, da se vrati bolja, više ne postoji bol. Ja znam da moja ljubav ima 100 života prije nego takne dno. Puštam je da ode, da se vrati bolja.
Okay, well, thank you again, everyone, for coming. Thank you to my wonderful panellists for speaking. I hope that you will come and talk to them and ask questions, and we can carry on having this discussion, and, you know, not just for today, but ongoing. So thank you very much, everyone.